Welcome back to our microphones, Maestro Daniel Boothe, now with a season under your belt with Symphonicity. Last year at this time, you were getting ready to launch into that inaugural season. A great success. I enjoyed every concert. And now you're an old pro. You're an old hand at those symphony seasons. And this year, you're going to take us to some destinations. Italy, United Kingdom, here in Virginia. And this Sunday, October 7th, you're going to take us south of the border.
That's right. Well, it's great to be back. Thank you for having me. And as I always tell my members of Symphonicity, thank you for coming back to the members. They volunteer their time to share this great music, and it's going to be a wonderful exploration of rhythm and movement and also introspection in this concert.
Well, one of the things that intrigues me is the Michael Daugherty timpani concerto called Raise the Roof. Michael Daugherty, one of the best-known American composers, very popular, very accessible. Tell me about Raise the Roof.
Well, Raise the Roof, for one, is a piece I love because it features an instrument dear to me, the timpani, and I'm a percussionist
Of course you are,
and a
yeah.
timpanist. And so that's one reason why I enjoy the work. I actually first heard it performed by the soloist we're going to feature, John Kilkenny, who teaches at George Mason University, performed it in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was at a concert, and I loved it, and I asked him if he'd like to collaborate on it. So it's a great piece. It has sort of the Daugherty kind of signature feel of that rock popular music feel in certain places. He uses meter and rhythm to create kind of a hip, sort of modern feel, but at the same time, he's so rooted in wonderful architecture in his writing, and he really explores the symphonic palette in ways that are familiar to us and keep it very appealing.
Yeah, Michael Daugherty's music is music we play a lot on the station with his many premieres, so it's good to have this one on the programs and get a chance to hear a great American composer in action. Now, you're going to start the program off with that Cuban overture from George Gershwin that dates from the days when the old cars in Cuba weren't old, and it was okay to travel down there.
This is
and a
true.
lot of people went down to Cuba. It's a fun pice from George Gershwin in his inimitable style.
I mean, you figure he wrote American in Paris. Here's a piece he writes after vacationing down there in Havana. So it's really going to be neat to feature our concert with this particular opener. And it's great because it has the iconic sounds that you would expect of music from Latin America.
Yeah.
It's very percussive. You hear the maracas
I
and the
expect to see
claves.
Cesar Romero walking across the boat
right.
or something like that. The Henry Cowell fanfare for the Latin American allies, that comes to that series of wartime fanfares where the Copeland fanfare for the common man came from. There were commissions out to many composers. Henry Cowell, a very well-known American composer who could be very spiky in some cases and extremely accessible in others.
That's right, and this fanfare really leans more on the latter. It's a conventional sounding type of approach for him.
Rarely heard. I congratulate you for finding that and bringing that to the program. Now, the elegiac poem from Manuel Ponce, that wonderful Mexican composer who wrote Estrellita. Everybody remembers that little star song that he wrote. But Manuel Ponce wrote a lot of symphonic material. Tell us about the elegiac poem.
Well, what's really interesting about it is music that, on the one hand, it's written by a composer who really prized the traditional music of Mexico, and he brought that into his voice. But he trained in Europe, in Italy and Germany, and you hear that in his harmonic language. In particular, it actually sounds a bit French. It has an impressionistic quality to it, and he uses that language in this particular piece to write a very direct kind of introspective work. It has a lot of deep, substantive, emotional attributes. But the thing that I would point out is that he uses rhythm in an emotional way as well within this elegy. And rhythm is kind of a thematic ingredient in this whole Latin American concert, but it's explored in a less conventional way in this elegy. But he uses rhythm and space to create these powerful moments of tension and introspection and harmonic palette that has at times a bit of a vagueness that's then answered and resolved with deep, meaningful sentiment.
And speaking of rhythm, of course, out to the pampas we go with that wild and woolly Alberto Ginastera and the suite from the ballet Estancia. That's always an audience favorite.
That's right.
And
part of why I programmed it. I mean, it's music that most of our patrons are going to be familiar with, and there may be a few gems in there in the interior movements that you aren't as familiar with, but it's a great showcase for the orchestra, but it's a toe tapper, and it's going to be a lot of fun, a great way to end our concert with something that has a very traditional kind of sound as he borrows thematically, musically, but also narratively from Argentina.
Cool. Well, October 7th, 3 p.m., Sandler Center. And, of course, we got to mention tickets. You can get them at the Sandler Center box office. You're now getting them online, symphonicity.org. That's easy to remember. Telephone number 671-8611, 671-8611. Again, online, symphonicity.org, or you can pop over to the Sandler Center if you're down at the beach and pick them up at the box office. But 3 p.m., your usual concert time, October 7th, Latin America, south of the border with Daniel Boothe and Symphonicity. So, and we're ready for the concert. And
I would just add one other thing. We have a wonderful pre-concert experience, too.
Yes, you do the pre-concert talks.
It's going to be great, and we're going to have for the Latin American concert a steel pan ensemble from the Virginia Arts Festival, the Rhythm Project. We're going to have art and food and all kinds of neat things to create a great cultural experience.
Cool. See you at the concert, October 7th. Vaya con Dios.